What is the most ground swallow me up embarrassing moment that's ever happened to you? I said to my cousin's wife, "How's the children?" She said, "Oh, they're not here yet." Then it hit me. She just had a miscarriage not a week ago. I mistook her for another cousin's wife. I had a teacher who was visibly pregnant. Like 7-8 months, super obviously pregnant. One day she stopped showing up for class. A month later she returned. No longer pregnant. First thing I ask her, "How's the baby?" Turns out she had miscarriage. The month she was out of class, which I assumed was maternity leave, was in fact mourning. Dang. I feel like someone should have warned the class about that, knowing they'd probably be asking. So sad. I used to wait tables. During a busy Sunday post-church lunch rush, I had to make a sundae for a table in the very back corner of the restaurant. I get to the table and the entire party starts laughing. I'm standing there holding the sundae, super confused. I look down and realize that I had somehow managed to get a large amount whipped cream directly over my crotch while preparing the sundae. It was nowhere else on me, just my crotch. All I could do was put the sundae down, say oh my gosh, and speed walk back through the entire restaurant to clean myself up. I farted in front of a client who is a famous NFL player. I pretended nothing happened and so did he. I wanted to run out and disappear. Edit, and of course one of my top rated comments would be about farting. I remember I used to work with this gorgeous girl when I was a freshman in high school. One day I'd bought some groceries before heading home and she offered me a ride, which I happily accepted. When we got to my house I proceeded to bend over to grab something while she was doing the same right behind me, and I ripped one in her face. After awkward eye contact we both unloaded the car in silence before saying goodbye. First bikini. Canadian lake with 16-year-old boys in the cabin next door. I was 15. In love. They take a week before asking if I want to try water skiing. 0. 2 seconds standing. Faceplant. Bottoms slowly sink in the crystal clear water. When they come back around to help me into the boat I reply, "I don't think water skiing is for me." Swam back to shore in my life vest. Never water skied again. Life advice. Learn water sports in a one piece. OMG, same thing happened to me. I was 16. Boat full of 16-year-old boys. I was the only girl. Very first time wearing a two-piece. Also on a Canadian lake. They took me tubing and turned super sharp. I flew off. And my bottom shot off. They pulled up in the boat to help me back in and I was stuttering an excuse. My bottoms gracefully floated to the surface beside me. Putting them back on underwater was awkward as FCK lol. In high school, I was hanging out with my group of friends at lunch. One of our friends walked up wearing a suit and started talking to one of my other friends. A few moments later, he says, "Okay guys, I'm heading out now. I'll be back tomorrow." So I replied excitedly, "Alright man. Have fun." Double quote. He gave me the weird scowl look of betrayal I've ever seen. Somehow it slipped past my radar that his girlfriend had developed a super rare disease and died inside the time span of a week. All my friends were looking at me with the widest eyes as he walked away. And in a chorus everyone was like, "Doo-doo-wood." I was walking with my friends from the dorms to a restaurant or something and, deciding to be silly, started doing this little skippy hop type walk. Lame gag for a laugh. But no one was laughing. We were at the age where guys laugh at every stupid thing their friends do, so I stopped to turn around and see what was up. Before I could turn around though, I noticed that there was this guy who was somewhat disabled walking in the opposite direction, coming towards us. One half of his body was atrophied and partially paralyzed or something. I don't know what was actually wrong with him, and this caused him to walk with a type of limp very similar but less exaggerated than the skippy hop I was just doing. We made eye contact and I just looked at the ground and heard one of my friends say, "What the FCK are you doing?" in this tone that makes me cringe to this day. That was almost a decade ago. On the upside, this was so cringy, if that word is even appropriate, that I think I'm dead inside and can't feel embarrassment anymore. When I was a teenager, I was a volunteer at a triathlon, and my job was to write athlete's number on both legs and both arms with a Sharpie. So here come a man. I marked one leg, then the other one. Then I do his first arm and I ask him to turn for the other one. He said. And it was true. I have only one arm. I'm really not observant. My birthday party. About 15 years old. Kids knocks on door. I answered. Kid's front tooth is green like from rot. It was a temporary cap or something. I just stared at him and he said hi. I said tooth. Pretty sure we both were humiliated. We did not retain friendship. Game 5 of the Cavs vs Pacers series this year. Was pretty drunk and stood up to go pee to the bathroom. Lost my balance and fell over the row in front of me. Then in my panic I went all the way up the stairs. Only to realize I needed to go down to get to the concourse. Didn't even pee. Called a lift and went straight home to die alone. So I had a crush on a girl back in 10th grade. We pretty much flirted with each other and she told me via MSN that she would like a hug when she came back to school. She was sick for like 2 weeks straight. So when the day came I hugged her. It was super awkward. I hugged her for like a minute straight and she calmly asked if I would let go of her. That minute felt like an eternity and felt embarrassing as fuck. After like 11 years it still makes me cringe when I think about it. I ran into someone I knew from high school at the DMV and talked to him while I was waiting. I got called up and I took care of everything I needed to do before he did. As I was leaving, I told the guy, "It was cool seeing you. Good luck with the wait." Due to the fact that there were 15-20 people in front of him, he heard it as, "Good luck with the wait," which was something he was always sensitive about. He looked at me pissed off, confused and said, "What did you just say to me?" To which I sloppily attempted to explain by saying, "You know, the wait. There's a bunch of people in front of you." Or something like that. It was very embarrassing. I used to wear glasses, hearing aids, braces, and had severe cystic acne. My doctor put me on Accutane for the acne, and it made my face insanely dry. One day a few weeks after starting the medication, my friend made me laugh hard in class. It cracked the skin on my cheeks and my face bled in the shape of my smile like Heath Ledger's Joker scar. I was an abomination. I've awful depth perception. And this one time my friend and I were waiting to cross the road and a bus was turning and for some reason I was convinced that it was gonna hit us. So I grabbed my friend to try and save her but ended up just cupping her boob. While the bus didn't hit us and all the passengers just stared at this weird kid cupping this girl's boob, who then started beating on me with her backpack once she got over the shock. I still think I saved her life though. I had something similar happen. Was walking with my much shorter friend. Go to cross the street and some guy comes flying up to the left turn lane opposite us. I assume he isn't going to stop so I throw my arm out to stop my friend. I don't know why. He was a grown man capable of seeing it himself, but he came up to about shoulder height on me. I elbowed my friend in the face and knocked him on his ass in the middle of the street. Then I looked and the left turner was completely aware of us so he was waiting. Watching. Laughing at the fact I just hit my friend. Sitting around the kitchen table with newish boyfriend. Boyfriend's mom and dad in the living room. He's filling out a form for a sleep apnea test because he snores like a bear at night. Most of the questions he needs to ask other people because they happen while he is sleeping, i.e. Does your snoring wake your partner? Question comes up, do you suffer from impotence? And I immediately answer nope. Double quote. Cue the slow head turn of the mom and boyfriend. Plus the immediate laughter of the dad in the next room. Felt my face go cherry red as I sank deeper into my chair. That's how they found out we were sexually active. I've had plenty of embarrassing moments, but this one makes me feel the worst. Background. I played the flute in middle school and I wasn't very good. Also I was a chubby girl who always had misfitting and mismatched clothes. I was not self-aware at all. So in 7th grade we had a hat day. Instead of wearing a hat, I made a hat out of those long balloons people make animals out of. In math, I thought I felt something poking my head, but I wasn't sure, so I just ignored it. Skipped to band practice. We were doing chair tryouts and most of the time I was last chair, but this time I actually practiced and tried to do well. My teacher didn't like me, and after assigning everyone else she said, in meta area you're in last chair. I was so embarrassed. I took off my balloon hat in shame. When I noticed pen marks on the back of it. The girl sitting behind me in math was trying to pop my hat in class. That just made me so embarrassed and sad. I never wanted to try anything ever again. Ugh, just last week. So I'm a construction worker. And I got to a job site that had a giant ditch pretty much all the way around it to lay in electric cables. I was in a hurry. A man with one arm was supporting the big, heavy electrical cable on his shoulder as they worked it into the ditch, creating a space under the cable behind him. Instead of going around or waiting until they were done, I decided the best course of action would be to try to sneak under the cable right behind this guy when he paused. I stumbled right into Johnny One Arm's ass. I almost knocked him over. What the FCK was I thinking? Knew a girl with the last name Vong. Decided to remember it as one letter away from super common last name Wong. Next time I see her I couldn't remember which super common last name, so I said, is your name Ching or Chang? Accidentally sounded like a racist idiot. Not me, but my ex. We'd been together for about 5 years and were accustomed to occasionally farting in front of each other. Normal couple stuff. Until one evening we had our neighbors over to watch a movie. We didn't know them very well and were trying to lock down some new couple friends. About 40 minutes in, my ex let one rip at a completely silent moment in the movie and everyone froze. This wasn't drilling one into the couch and it's a little louder than expected. This wasn't thinking hoping it will be silent and guessing wrong. This was loud. Out there. Unapologetic. Unmistakable fart. The kind of thing that is perfectly normal in the privacy of one's own home. And he had just forgotten they were there. They exchanged a quick horrified look and then we all did our best to avoid eye contact for the tensest, most awkward hour of my life that followed. They sprinted out the door the second the movie was over and they never came over again. I ran into an old co-worker at McDonald's. Our tenures had overlapped by about a month and that was several years ago. He recognizes me and calls me over to his friends and tells them this is the nicest guy I have ever met. In the next 3 minutes I called him by the wrong name and asked him how he liked a job he'd never worked at. It was pretty clear that I hardly remembered him. I was so embarrassed that I got my McDonald's to go and ate it in my car. I'm midway through my burger when him and his friends walk up and get into the car directly facing mine. We made awkward eye contact while I had my food in my hand and then they drove off. FML. My favorite one was an account of an event on the work forums. A manager was working through a transaction with a couple. Whenever the man was asked a question, his wife would answer. He asked, does she ever let you speak for yourself? The wife responded with no. Not since his stroke. Double quote. Fuck. It was my birthday and we were sitting at the kitchen table. It was my 2 sisters, dad, and grandma. We were just passing out some cake and my dad asked if anyone wanted whipped cream and I said, "Rub whipped cream on me, daddy." Double quote. I have never once in my life called my dad daddy. I'm not sure if it matters, but I'm a guy. And it was for my 23rd birthday. In a noisy room. Someone was acting "Are you okay?" Resting dead face overload. But because it was noisy I thought they were asking "Are you gay?" Being the straight person I am, I said no. They asked why and I explained. I was talking to my new supervisor when she told me it was her 3rd time taking her role at the troubled children program we worked at. She said, "These kids are what always bring me back." Double quote. 17-year-old me smiles and jokingly says, "Why don't you just have your own?" Double quote. Her smile and jovial spirit quickly turned to a dark, blank, empty stare. I did. 2 of them. They died 6 months ago. Both of them. Double quote. Worst moment of my adolescent life. I've done worse. I made a "your mom" joke to a classmate who lost her mother to cancer a month earlier. In my defense, your mom was a literally reflexive thing to say for me at that point. But Jesus. I even went to the funeral. You at least had ignorance on your side. I was in the elevator area of my former job and wearing a skirt that was a little too big for me. Luckily, I had one of those long sweaters on over top because I was talking to the maintenance guy and the skirt just dropped to the floor like, and we're done here, and the guy and I just stared at each other for a small eternity. I was in a line in the cafeteria and my female friend is leaning on the table holding her purse. Every time she opens it, I close it. I did it twice, then she suddenly faced me and it was a total stranger. I went back to our classroom and didn't eat lunch. I was deathly afraid of public speaking in high school. When I had to give a speech in front of the class, my legs would shake and I would sweat profusely every time. We had to give oral book reports to the whole class in my senior English class. I'm sitting in my chair, legs crossed, sweating with anticipation, when the teacher calls my name. Fantasifin. You're up. I let out a deep breath and go to stand up. I forget to uncross my legs. So I trip. But I don't just trip. I stumble. I try to regain my balance. But instead I pick up speed. I tumble for about 10 feet before I finally fall. I get up as the whole class stares at me. I slowly walk up to the front of the class and say, "Well, the speech can't get any worse now." Double quote. That moment helped me overcome my fear of public speaking though. Since then, I've given multiple speeches in front of large crowds with no problem. Short backstory. I have epilepsy. We discovered I have epilepsy after I had a full-on tonic-clonic seizure for the first time when I was standing in front of my locker in the 6th grade. It was the first one of my life. And my body didn't know what to do. So I ended up peeing my pants. It's the only time I've ever lost bladder control during a seizure. Fast forward to the 10th grade. I was in class talking to a new kid, who I just so happened to have a crush on. I had told him my name. And a girl turned around, took one look at how we were sitting together and said, "Aren't you the girl that peed herself in middle school?" Double quote. He never talked to me again. In middle school I used to have a bad habit of chewing on these pens that had sharp tips and came in red, black and blue ink. Can't remember the brand, but they had a grey body and a see-through little window to see the ink left. Anyway, what I didn't know is that the tube body was slightly pressurized. And one day during class I bit too hard on the pen, making it burst into my mouth. My teeth, tongue and lips were stained blue for days and everyone went around saying I gave a Smurf head. When I was younger, I grew my hair out longer and didn't really do anything with it. Because of this, and my name, I would get mistaken for a girl when people first meet me and or at public spaces. One time, my family and I went out to lunch when I was, say, maybe 8. We'd go to this local place. Somewhere that we haven't been before. Though, at one point, I have to go use the bathroom. Ask my dad where it is. He points to it as we were pretty close. And I go wait outside of it, there was single person bathroom. About 30 seconds after, some big old guy, maybe 50s, comes up and stands behind me to stand in line for the bathroom. A few seconds later, he taps me on the shoulder and says to me, "This is the boys' bathroom. The girls' is over there." My dad heard him say this and told him that I was a guy. I wanted to die. I was a new lifeguard, tanning my white ass and thinking I was hot shit. I'd do laps around the pool, keeping kiddies safe in my tight little one piece that was both sexy and serious. Hero. The only issue I had was that there were mosquitoes around the pool. They were hard to see, but I had a few bites here and there. I always felt them on my legs and couldn't swat them because I so much time talking to people who were sitting, their eyes to my thighs. Didn't want to be slapping my legs around while talking to patrons clam first. So after a few days on the job, I felt a bug on my inner thigh and finally swatted it. I looked down and realized that for the whole day and maybe all those before it, my tampon string was hanging out the front crotch of my swimsuit. I played hockey when I was in high school. Tons of it. I was on several teams and was in a rec league for a short time afterwards. Shortly before moving off to university, I fractured a rib. If you don't know what that entails, it's extremely painful, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. You can't wrap your whole torso in a cast, so the only thing you can do is stay off of it completely. You can't even bend over. It's awful. Now comes move-in day. My dad is working, so I have my mother helping me. There I am, with no cast and nothing obviously wrong with me, directing my mother where to put all my stuff like my mini fridge. My mother is moving all of my stuff in while I look like some spoiled rich kid not lifting a finger to help. I felt like such a douche canoe. I am in high school, and I'm not the brightest bulb on the tree when it comes to common sense. But I was chosen as a groomsman for my brother's wedding. And in this wedding all of the groomsmen were supposed to escort people to their seats. This caught me off guard being the socially awkward person I am. But I thought, how bad could it be? People started to show up and I started escorting the girls for obvious reasons. But then a group of all guys came in and walked up to me. I smiled politely and stuck out my arm to escort one of them. He gave me the most weirded out and awkward face ever and walked in. My dad saw that, and he explained to me that we were only supposed to escort women. I had absolutely no idea, and I instantly wanted to die. The other groomsmen were getting the biggest kick out of this, and I just slunk into the most self-disappointed posture I could. I then continued to escort girls with awkward conversations that didn't even hold a candle to what had just happened.